All right, good. I was about to say morning, but it's afternoon now technically. Time is weird when you teach one class and then go immediately into the next. If anyone just wants to give me a message in the chat that you can hear my audio, that'd be great. I see that my mic is hot, but I want to make sure. Cool, awesome. All right, so welcome to Math 162, Pre-Calc 2. We will be, I'm doing air quotes right now, meeting for this time for the rest of the semester, Monday and Wednesday from 12:30 until 1:45. Now, as you already know, we are in a very unique situation, unique to at least a year ago, something had never been done before, is that this course will be taught remotely for the entirety of the semester. We're never going to meet face-to-face in person. All these classes will be done completely online. It's known as a synchronous model, if you like big fancy words. The asynchronous means that we aren't actually having these little meetings at a specific time. You just watch the videos whenever you want. But the thing is, it kind of works that way too, because I'll be giving you the recordings and you can watch them whenever you want. There's a lot of unique features to the way this course is going to play out. Attendance is done a little differently. Tests are done a little differently. Availability of some resources is a little different. So we're going to just mostly today be talking pretty extensively about that stuff. I don't even think that we'll get into any of this course's material today. And if I finish the talk and it's like only 10 minutes left of class, I'm gonna just go ahead and call it a day there. But let's wait till that happens. All right, so what you should see on your screen right now is our syllabus. It's very, very long. It's like 13 or 14 pages in length. These things used to only be 2 pages long back in the day, and back in the day was only a decade ago. But, you know, things happen, these documents get bloated, more information is necessary, blah, blah, blah. So in it, you have your course ID from mymathlab.com, which I also emailed to you. We will talk about how to enroll in Mymathlab, the requirements of Mymathlab, and when you have to be in, which I've already said that last detail. You have my name, Rodney Beckner, my office phone number. This is not my cell phone, this is my office. And admittedly, I'm probably only going to be in my office 1 or 2 days a week due to various reasons. You know, COVID-19 times. So I have a lot of things going on at my house that I tend to need to be here, but I do like using my office when I can. So sometimes I teach from home, which is where I'm currently. Sometimes I'm teaching from my office. So if you call me, I can't guarantee that I'm going to get back to you in with any kind of quickness. It may be 5 or 6 days before I even get to my voicemail because of that. So calling and leaving a message is not the best way to communicate. It's fine if nothing's urgent, but my suggestion is that you email me, rbeckner@tcc.edu. I've already sent you an email, so you should have at least seen that address once. Whenever you email me, whenever you start a fresh email, please say that you're a Math 162 student. You don't have to say the date and time. You're my only Math 162 for the semester. So at least put Math 162 test question or Math 162 missed class or something like that. Just make sure Math 162 is in the tagline because I've got 5 different classes and it just makes it easier. This is my only small class as well. I think I've only got 10 students in here right now, which is very atypical. Usually this is a full course. I don't know, I mean, I'm assuming it's because of COVID-19. And it might be that I usually get a lot of dual enrollment students and maybe maybe I don't have any. I don't know. They haven't sent me a list yet. And I'm not going to ask you to say that in this chat right now because then everyone else would know. Again, our course website that we'll use is mymathlab.com. You absolutely must purchase an access kit for this. Now, here's the good thing. If you had Math 161 on the Portsmouth campus of TCC or any other campus that uses our specific textbook, because I don't think Norfolk does. I can't keep track of all 4 of them, unfortunately. So if you used Mymathlab last semester or 2 semesters ago for Math 161, you don't need to purchase an Access Kit again. So I'm going to type that on another screen. If you purchased a Mymathlab Access Kit, Math 161, shouldn't need to buy it again. I just want to make sure it's typed. And there's some other notes on that screen that are relevant for later, but let's just focus on that part for now. And I imagine there's a decent amount of you that did. There's also probably a decent amount of you that didn't. So we'll get into that soon. Hyperlinks, do these actually work? Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. They do this semester, good. Not that I'm going to keep going back to them, but. So course description, what material are we going to be covering in this course? Mainly trigonometry, but after about the first 10 or 11 weeks, we will go into topics outside of trigonometry, what I would call advanced algebra or advanced pre-calculus for some students. So about 10, 11 weeks roughly, we're going to be studying everything having to do with a circle and how we can take those laws and transpose them into things that aren't circles necessarily, but use a lot of the basic principles of it. Like the sine of an angle being the ratio of its opposite to its hypotenuse. And what exactly does that do for us? Well, you know, we have these intangible numbers that the sine of 85 degrees might be, but it can tell us something about something else. So we'll be building and building and building. And I want to go ahead and be upfront with you. This is a course where if you're struggling with the beginning material, you need to absolutely focus and put twice as much time into this to make sure you get it. Because this is a course that just keeps building on the material. Chapter, I think 5 is our first chapter in this book. When we go to chapter 6, if you haven't mastered chapter 5, you're going to be having a very difficult time. When we get to chapter 8, if you haven't mastered chapter 7, you are going to have a very difficult time. The stuff in our first chapter will never go away for the rest of the semester. In terms, like 90% of that material is never going to go away. We're constantly going to be talking about sines and cosines and tangents and the Pythagorean laws and some of these shortcuts and you know, what's the sine of 30 degrees and how do you do it if it's this, how do you do it if it's that, blah, 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 blah. There's going to be a decent amount of pre-calculus and maybe even just algebra before that you need to remember for this course. Things like rationalizing a denominator. If you've got 1 over the square root of 2, that's not an acceptable answer. You have to multiply top and bottom by square root of 2 to fix that. We're going to do that probably 400 times throughout the semester. And then it's got a cousin as well, with maybe the bottom square root of 2 plus 5. There's a slightly different technique for that one. And as we approach those necessary techniques for our problems, I'll cover the idea, but I'm not going to spend a whole 90 minutes talking about something you're supposed to have, again, already mastered. But I do understand that time between courses, whether it's been 4 weeks, because it's been since summer semester, or maybe it's been 4 months because it's been since your spring semester, or maybe it's been 4 years because you're coming back to school. And just have waited on your math, whatever. I know that we forget things. There is literally an equation, a mathematical model for forgetting things. And depending on whether you're a glass half full or a glass half empty kind of guy or girl or whatever, you could call it the memory equation or you could call it the forget equation. So that's kind of fun. So you do have to have passed Math 161. It may have been called Math 163 a couple years ago if you had it here. It's just Pre-Calc 1 or had the equivalent high school class. There are no co-rec courses for this. There's co-rec courses for Math 161 for some students, but that's not an issue for us, so don't have to worry about it. Required materials, textbook, graphing calculator, access kit. Technically, the first one is not required. The physical textbook is an optional purchase that while I recommend for students who feel the need for physical books. Me personally, I like having a physical book because guess what? Sometimes the internet is down. Proof is in the pudding with Zoom being down this morning for about an hour or two. That was fun. Thankfully, my first class today was at 11 and it was working at that point, but I had all sorts of text messages and email chains from other instructors about this, and it was a global issue. My math lab will go down sometimes. If my math lab is down, your textbook is down. So me personally, I like having the physical book. Also, I can flip to a page a lot quicker than I can pull up the ebook and go to it for various reasons. So again, physical textbook is optional, and that's because your text is available electronically, and I'll show you that after this page. I'm going to talk about my math lab. Graphing calculator. I will not allow calculators for every single test. You will know whether you can have one for a test or not. Typically, the way I do things is the first 2 tests are no calculator, and the second pair of tests are calculator allowed. And there's several reasons for this. I want to make sure that you as Pre-Calc 2 students have the necessary prerequisite skills. I don't want to see my trigonometry, my Pre-Calc 2 students, putting 3 minus 4 on a calculator. I don't want to see my trigonometry students to adding 1/2 and 1/4 in a calculator. Your arithmetic skills are supposed to be top-notch at this point. Your algebra skills are supposed to be refined at this point. So those first 2 tests, I want to make sure that those skills are available to you. So if you're rusty, you need to practice. There are lots of available online resources to practice with this stuff. Purple Math, Khan Academy, they're both great things, which I just realized I didn't mention in my Math 161 class. I'm going to email that to them. Not that it's relevant to you, I'm ranting. But you will definitely want a graphing calculator for the last half of the course. So why is it I allow it for the last half but not the first half? Because at the last half, it starts to become necessary. We start to get into vectors and more complicated types of graphing that you really want to have this as kind of a backbone for, not just, oh, what's 3 minus 4? Please do math in pencil. Please don't do math in pen. And I say this as a complete hypocrite because I do math in pen all the time. But I feel after my education and time spent teaching that I've earned the right to do math in pen. You will have to submit test work to me electronically. So if it's a scribbled mess of a nightmare, I'm not going to really want to look at that, and it might cause you to lose some points because of that potentially. So please do your math in pencil. Again, my Mymathlab Access Kit, this is the one thing that is absolutely mandatory. The TI-83, you don't actually have to purchase as long as you've got good computer technology in front of you. You can just Google free TI-83 app, and what you'll get is a file folder, you download it, and then here you go. Here's your TI-83 on a computer. There's probably one for a cell phone as well. I've actually never tried. I'm sure it exists though. And it functions exactly as my TI-83. I can go in and change settings. Here's a very important setting, radian versus degrees, that we'll have to check 10,000 times throughout the semester. I can even cut it off. So you can use an electronic graphing calculator. I'm okay with that. But a physical one is better. Honestly, the delay from touching a button with the mouse and it actually reacting, if I hit like 3 times in a row too quick, it'll only show it twice. That can be an issue if you like to work really quickly like me. So I still prefer a physical one, but I can't show you a physical TI-83 given this situation, so it is what it is. 3-ring binders, graph paper, ruler, all that stuff is completely optional. Any graphs that you're turning into me on paper, they don't have to be on graph paper. You don't have to be perfectly straight with a ruler or anything like that. And in fact, most of the graphs we do are all bendy. They're curves. They're waves a lot of the times. All right, topics covered. Before we get into that, let's talk about Mymathlab. Let's take a pause from this and let's go into Mymathlab, and we'll even talk about Canvas and how you're going to submit your test work. So here's how you're going to make a Mymathlab account. I have a separate window pulled up. This is only the first time I've ever used whatever the new version of Internet Explorer is. I can't even remember the name. Edge, maybe? Doesn't matter. So you're going to click Register Now as a Student. It'll tell you 3 things you need. Your email address. We prefer that you use your TCC email address, but I won't mandate it. What I say is use one that you check regularly, because you might have an email sent or a message sent through Mymathlab, and if it's going to an account that you don't check regularly, then you're going to miss it. Now, what you might say is, well, I don't ever check my TCC email, so let me not use that. Here's the thing. You're kind of contractually obligated to check your TCC email every business day, just like me. So sorry, distraction, hold on a second. The pros of teaching for home. Sometimes my dogs distract me. Hey, stop it. Okay. That won't be the last time you hear that. So, check your email, check your TCC email, as I always do as well. Your instructor's course ID, I provided that to you in the syllabus as well as in the email. It was Beckner and then a 5-digit number, which I'll pull up shortly. And this last part, access code or credit card, this is kind of a lie because there's a 14-day free trial I will describe how to get to. So go to OK, register now. Type in your course ID, which was Beckner, not that one, that's my pre-calc 1. Don't use 12149. Where am I going? Syllabus, back to the syllabus. So that was 50661. 50661. 50661. Continue. And it should tell you the proper Math 160 course, date and time. If you already have a Mymathlab account or a Pearson account, you can sign in there, or you can just go to create Pearson account if you need to make one from scratch. If you previously used a code for Math 161, you absolutely must use that account. If you make a new account, you'll have to buy a new code. So type your email address. Maybe your name is Robert Green. So maybe your email is like RGREN 009 at, sorry, 0009, it's usually 4 numbers, at email.vccs.edu. Please make sure you get this part right, at email.vccs.edu. If you get it wrong, you're going to try and sign in with your accurate email, and it's going to say you don't have an account, and you're going to freak out, and customer service is going to have a hard time figuring it out. So please make sure you get that right, assuming you're using your TCC account. Your username can be your email address, or you can make it something else unique. You'll need a good password. Make sure you re-enter it appropriately. First name, last name, security. Click the agree to terms. If one of these is relevant, then click it. If not, don't click it. And then you click create your account. Now I don't want to make a duplicate account and have a fake student all semester for all my accounts. So I can't take you past this point, but I can draw up what the next screen looks like. So after you hit create account, this is what's going to pop up. I think I need to update because I'm supposed to have a draw tab. I use a drawing tablet to be able to write, and the draw option isn't up here. Hopefully that's fixed before next class. But what I can do instead is use Zoom's annotate feature and write on the screen. Now you might say, why don't I just normally use this? It's because if I want to do that and scroll the screen, I can't. I can't do this on multiple documents. I have to erase everything to then start over from scratch. So also, my handwriting is not the best using the Zoom annotate, but in Word, they have an algorithm that cleans it up really nicely. So, all right. Anyways, so this is the next screen after what I was showing you before. You'll have a button up here that says use your code. And I'm shortening it a little bit. Then you'll have a button that says buy your code. Now, someone in the last class told me that this was about $75 if you buy it online. I want to say it's about $93 if you buy it from the bookstore. Now, you might say, well, obviously, I want to pay $75 versus $93, but if you only have cash, you're not going to be able to stick cash in your computer and buy the code. If you are using financial aid to purchase textbook materials or course materials, I cannot 100% say for certain that you can buy it online and get a refund for it. A couple years ago, they told us that that wasn't possible. I have had other people since then tell me that a student told me that they were able to get a refund, but that was word of mouth. And I don't always trust word of mouth. I'm a person who likes to see hard evidence, and no one's given me the hard evidence lately. There's too much else going on with CV19. So if you are using financial aid, maybe either A, talk to someone at financial aid and see if they can refund you if you buy it this way that's slightly cheaper, or B, just take the hit and pay the extra roughly $20. All right, so what if you haven't bought your code yet? What if you can't buy it online? What do? Well, at the bottom of the screen in smaller font, there's a hyperlink, and it's your 14-day free trial. So there is where I imagine a lot of you are going to be clicking. Now, at the end of those 14 days, you will be locked out of the course. You can still log into Mymathlab, but you will be locked out of your course. So you won't be able to access your materials. You won't be able to work on your homework, which is part of your grade. You wouldn't be able to complete your tests because the tests are going to be in Mymathlab unless I decide to go a different route with them. That's what I've been doing so far, and it's worked pretty well. So you 100% absolutely have to buy this kit. If you can't afford the $75 or $95, you need to go ahead and withdraw from this course now because it's a zero exception policy. You have to buy it. I wish it was free. There are free programs out there, but for various reasons like lack of security, these websites could just disappear in an instant, and then we lose all our records. We have so far said we haven't found something good enough to go with a free program. We're always looking for one, but we haven't found it yet, at least at the Portsmouth campus. I've heard of Newton being pretty solid, but I think they just went to a pay-to-play scenario as well. It's a lot cheaper, but they still have other things going on that we don't need to talk about really. Important. Okay, so we know what to do next. Clear screen, take off annotate. So when you log in to Mymathlab, if this is your only course, it'll look something like this. There's that Math 162, Fall 2020, Monday, Wednesday, 12:30. I got 4 out of the 10 of you already, so that's good. And I don't see any temporary, so that means 4 of you have already purchased your kits. And I won't put you on blast and say who it is, but the other 6 of you, please make sure you get situated because as I said, I believe I said in the email I sent to you, did I not type it up here? I thought I typed it in here somewhere. All right, get rid of that for a second. I thought I had this typed up there, but you must enroll in the Mymathlab course before Wednesday's course. Deleted. Deleted means you were never in Math 162. You didn't exist to me because you did not participate. That's the one participation I ask for, to not remove you from my course immediately. We all need to be responsible enough to go ahead and enroll in the thing where we get our textbook, we have our homework, and we will get our tests later. Must, absolutely must do that, or you're gone. Please don't make me delete you. I don't want to delete any of you. I want you all to be with us all semester and do well. Okay, so back to Mymathlab. So when you log in, it'll look like this, and you'll spend almost all of your time in these 2 tabs. You see the 162 syllabus is there. This is going to link you to my spring semester syllabus. Currently, I have not updated it. Honestly, I had to put a lot of things together at the last moment because 2 of my classes were not necessarily going to run. In fact, I feel like this was one of them because of the low enrollment, only having like 8 students a week ago. And I think that's the minimum. So we didn't want to put our course materials together and have a completely different schedule. So you do have your syllabus. Again, I emailed it to you. I'll put it in Canvas. But for now, this is a previous semester's. Actually, no, it's not even there. Perfect, even better. So I will fix that sooner than later. Homework and then quizzes and tests. I am not necessarily going to do quizzes if I don't have to. I did say that I reserve the right to do kind of, are you watching the video quizzes, that kind of thing. I don't want to have to, so as long as I see everyone doing the homework and I see either high participation numbers in the live, or I go to my YouTube links for the post show and I see high video counts there, as long as those things are happening, then I don't have to do quizzes. But I always reserve the right to do quizzes, and they'd be in here or in Canvas, depending on the scenario. Okay, homework. So here are all the sections we should cover. There might be one or two sections that we also get to if we have time, but I don't anticipate that. Each section has anywhere from 10 to 30 questions, usually closer to 15 and 20. You have multiple attempts to get a question right. These drop-down menu ones only give you one attempt, and it'll say it's incorrect. But that doesn't mean you have it incorrect permanently. It means that you have to try it again. All right, so it wasn't that one. Well, maybe it's this one. And please don't do things this way. I'm just giving you an idea. Okay, try again. Maybe it's this thing. Oh, okay, I got it right. Now that's permanently correct. I can still go back and try it again. If I go back to question 3, I can hit the try again. And this one is boring because it's a drop-down menu. It just gives me the same options, but in a different order. But other problems are a little less boring. Here we go. So find the radian measure of the central angle of a circle of radius 7 yards that intercepts an arc length of 8 yards. So I haven't taught you how to do this yet, so I'm not going to tell you exactly what's going on. Well, let's say it was 5. Check. All right, it's wrong. Well, okay, well, that was wrong. Maybe it's 6. Check. Nope. Well, maybe it's 6,000. Final check. So there's your normal 3 attempts. It tells you the correct answer was 8/7. Huh, interesting that it was that number over that number. Maybe there's a reason for it. Don't just try and figure out a pattern based on what you see. Understand why that is. All right, so let me hit a similar question. Oh, okay, so it changed the 8 and a 7 to 1 and a 4. Now, because it was so simple, I know this answer is probably going to be 4/1. It says type an integer or a fraction. If I type 4/1, I bet it marks it wrong. Although your answer is equal to the correct answer, it is not in the correct form because 4 divided by 1 is just 4. Now I got it right. It's permanently right, and we're good to go. Now, what if I didn't deduct it based on, oh, just there was 2 numbers on top of each other? Question help. Help me solve this. We'll take you through a similar problem. Actually, this one, it gives you the same numbers. I think sometimes it changes them. It tells you what relevant formulas and instructions. Continue. It will ask you, okay, what's the arc length? They said the arc length is 4, so I hit enter. Check. Well, I got that right. So this actually has me inputting things. What's the radius of the circle? They said it was 1, so I type 1. Enter. All right, so substitute the values into the formula S over R. 4/1 is 4. And we get it. Now, when you do that, after you close it, if I hadn't already done this correctly, the original numbers would change. It would change from a 1 and a 4 to maybe a 2 and a 17 or something like that, because it doesn't want you just do the same thing twice. There's also view an example, which just gives you 2 new numbers or however many numbers are relevant for the problem. And it still gives you the same information, but instead of asking for your input, it does the work for you. So some students prefer view an example. Some students prefer help me solve this. Some students like to do view an example and then help me solve this. Maybe just kind of read through things, then actually try it themselves, then get to the actual problem. But those resources are there for almost every problem. There's the occasional problem that they're not there, but it's not the end of the world. All right, so I got my 9.52. I'd keep working on that until I get my 80 or 90 or 100 or whatever I feel most comfortable with, wherever I want to be with my grade, which is, for me personally, 100s. So here's the thing. My math lab's not perfect. Nothing is. Nobody is. Sometimes, maybe you say the answer is 2.1 and the answer is 2.05. You rounded an incorrect way. My math lab's going to tell you it's wrong. But if this was a big word problem that had 10, 11 steps that took 15 minutes to do you think it's fair that you earned 0 points for writing 2.1 instead of 2.05? That's the type of thing that you'd get partial credit on a test for in how I'll tell you in a few minutes, by submitting your work to me, basically. So because Mymathlab is not perfect, and I've even seen it once or twice say that the right answer was wrong, and because sometimes there's just a question that's out of our grasp or doesn't need to be there because it's like a challenge question. I give you a little point booster or a buffer, whatever you want to say, extra credit, something like that. So what I say is, and you might have seen this already, not that, this. Right here. This note right here. Any homework that you have that says a 90 or higher, I will change into a 100 in my personal grade book. I use Excel for my grade book, so love Excel. Great program. So all I have to do is download your grades, convert it to an Excel file. I type in a quick little line of code that says, all right, anything that's a 90 or higher, change it to a 100. Also, anything that's lower than a 90, I'm just going to add 10 points. So basically, I give you a 10-point curve, but I'm not going to make your grade a higher than a 100. That's the maximum I'm going to allow. And I know some people in high school that are used to getting 5.0s and AP classes instead of a 4.0 might feel that's not fair, but this is college. Max you can get GPA is a 4.0. Max you can get grade percentage is 100 for me. So if Mymathlab says you have an 85, I'm not going to change it in Mymathlab. Mymathlab will still say you have an 85, but in my grade book, you'll have a 95. So because of this, as well as something else, do not trust your Mymathlab grade. It will lie to you. And not just in that way, that says Mymathlab grade is going to be lower than what you should really have. But it can also tell you a higher grade than it's supposed to be, especially if you're not doing the assignments. So here's what Mymathlab does. Your homeworks are always due a week after the fact, and I'll talk about that extensively in a second. So homeworks are due a week later. After that, if you didn't open it, you got a 0. If you didn't do anything, you got a 0. Unfortunately, if you don't open the assignment, Mymathlab doesn't count it as a 0. It counts it as a grade that doesn't exist, and it doesn't even count that assignment as an average. So what you might see is a student turns in the first homework and gets a 95 on it. They don't do a single homework assignment the rest of the semester, and Mymathlab will tell them that they have a 95, which is very terribly wrong. They probably have like a 5 or a 10 in all honesty, which, by the way, I don't add 10 points to zeros. That's not going to happen. So Mymathlab is a giant liar. What I suggest to you is to keep track of your grades yourself. You are pre-calc 2 students. You're almost ready for calculus. If you can't handle recording numbers and handling a simple average, that terrifies me. Add up the grades and divide by the number of grades you've had. Now, that doesn't say if we've had 20 homeworks and you only did 1, divide by 1, you have to divide by 20, which would give you that terrible grade that that student earned. And when you record your grades, record the 10-point added grade. So if Mymathlab says you have an 85, in your documentation, write 95. Use Excel, use Word, make a C++ code. I don't care how you do this. Just keep your own records for yourself, because it's a giant pain in the butt to have to keep updating everybody on their grade all semester. I will not do it. I will not do it for trig students. Never, ever, ever. If you were my Arithmetic 1 class, that's another story. When is homework due? As I said, 1 week after a section is completed in class, unless I mention otherwise. So I will not always say, hey, 1.3 is due next week, this specific date. If we finish section 1.3 on, say, September 1st, that means on September 8th, section 1.3 is due. How do you know a section's completed? I will say, that's the end of the section. And then you'll see me move on to the next section. It should be fairly obvious. I always write section numbers whenever I move on. I always say, that's the end of the section. And while 90% of the time I still do write those homework due dates, with that statement said, I don't have to. It is a fact for all semester unless I say otherwise. What could cause the date to be shorter or longer? Well, maybe my internet was down, maybe Zoom was down, maybe a hurricane came through, maybe I'm sick. You know, there's a lot of different things that could cause an extension needed. Maybe there's just a weirder assignment and I feel like, nah, you guys need an extra little bit of time just to get everything finished. But even though I give you a week, and that's lenient, if this was an in-person class, I would make things due the next day. So all caps and bolded. I highly suggest that you complete a homework assignment before the next class. So let's say that we did section 5.1 today. We finished it completely. So that next class we're going to be moving on to 5.2. Go ahead, go in Mymathlab, get that 5.1 homework, because I can almost guarantee you that the next section will be using material from the section that you just worked on. So how is it going to benefit you to come to class and learn about 5.2 having not practiced the stuff from 5.1 at all? You need to be aware of the effort and timing of everything that you need to put in, the amount of effort you need to be putting into, and the timing of doing things. Do the homework immediately. But I know that some of us don't have internet at home. Some of us have issues with our internet at home. Some of us have weird, wacky schedules that are changing constantly because of COVID-19 or other reasons. So I give you a slight break on the homework due date. So please make sure that you're doing that homework as soon as possible, and at least finishing it a couple days later if absolutely necessary. So that's homework. For the tests, let's go ahead and talk about all the testing stuff at once. First of all, this is an issue that 10 years ago when I was teaching, I'd ask my students, how much are you supposed to be studying or working on homework outside of a course? And half the students would know the answer. In the past year, when I asked this question, not one student knows the answer, or they might have too large of an answer. And the rule of thumb is, for a regular 15, 16-week class like ours, every credit you meet in class is 2 hours you should be working outside of class. So this is a 3-credit course, which means you should be working on studying and or homework at least 6+ hours a week. And that's just for this course. Do you know why they call it a full-time course load at 15 hours? Because 15 credits means you're studying and doing homework 30 hours outside of class. 30 plus 15 is 45. So a 15-credit schedule is equivalent to you working 45 hours a week if you're actually putting in the right amount of effort. And historically with math classes, quite honestly, it's people don't want to put in the effort. And guess what? Mymathlab tracks your time. So I know how much effort you're putting into this. Now, if you're studying outside of Mymathlab, I can't tell that, but I can definitely tell how much you're working on the homework. So don't try and play slick with me and say, I've spent hours on the homework. Well, Mymathlab says you've been in there for 30 seconds. So I don't know what's up with that. And that's when you go, well, Mymathlab is broken and a liar. And I go, well, you might be right. But let's see how you do on the test. Take good notes. Learning styles are so important to understand for ourselves. There are 3 main learning styles. Some of us learn by reading, some of us learn by writing, and some of us learn by listening. Some of us, it's a combination of those things. Some people learn all 3 ways. Some people only learn 1 way. I will be completely honest. If you tell me something, it goes in one ear and out the other pretty much. 2 days later, I don't remember it. Not at all. 2 hours later, I might not remember it. I don't learn by listening. It's just how my brain works. And it's not me being rude or anything. I'm especially terrible with names. It's just how my brain works. And it's how a lot of your brains might work. Other people are amazing listeners. They listen to something, they don't have to write it down, and they know it for life, or at least for the next couple of days or weeks or months or years or whatever. You have these people that can work in restaurants and these fancy restaurants and not have to write anything down for people's extensive orders. I would never be one of those people. I could never have that job because, again, it's not how my brain works. And that's not a bad thing because I'm great at learning by writing and I'm pretty decent at learning by reading. So me, I absolutely have to take notes if I want to learn anything. If I write something down, I'll remember it for a month. If I read it, I'll probably remember it for about 2 weeks. Why do we write these things down? Because then we can go back and read it later. You might say, okay, well, why do I need to write it down? I can just go and read your version of the notes. Well, my version of the notes might be a little bit of a different interpretation than your version of the notes. You can abbreviate things. You can make little cliff notes and stuff that I might not have said directly. Make sure you're watching these lectures. Again, I cannot mandate live participation. I see that I've got 8 of my 10 students live right now, which is amazing. I love it. I'm glad y'all are here. But if you find that you ever can't catch a live lecture, there will always be, hold on, let me be careful saying always. If Zoom eats one of my recordings, I can't guarantee that I can re-record it, unfortunately. So that has happened to me twice in about 6 months. I was able to re-record one of them, but not the other. And if I do a re-recording, I can guarantee you that I'm going to be talking twice as fast. I'm going to be much more abbreviated, because that's just more time I'm spending. That's, I mean, it's not fair, but who says life is fair, right? The good thing is YouTube has a slowdown feature, so if I talk twice as fast, you can play at 50 or 75% speed, and everything balances out. So I hope that doesn't happen. My desk is wood, so I'm knocking on wood. But Zoom has, on 2 different occasions, changed my recordings, changed my record setting to not record them. And it wasn't me. It wasn't just me. It was a whole bunch of people that had that issue. So again, as long as everything goes properly, I will always be recording these lectures. I will upload them to YouTube after the course ends. And within about 30 minutes to an hour, generally, they will be available. Now, I believe I said in the email that I'll have them up no later than 5 p.m. because sometimes I'll have other couple things I have to do really quickly. As I said, I go right in from my Pre-Calc 1 class to this one. I have 0 minutes to do anything, so I upload theirs first, and then y'all's. Each YouTube video takes about 15 minutes to convert, and then if you actually want to see it in 720p instead of garbage-looking video, that usually takes another 30 minutes to an hour to actually look proper. I don't know what the fancy term for that is, nor do I need it. So make sure you're watching the lectures. Like I said, attendance, I'm not going to base it based on who is catching the live lecture, because some of you might be watching the recorded lecture and you might say, all right, we'll just make a comment on YouTube. A comment on YouTube doesn't say how long you watched it, and YouTube only tells me a view count, not view time per person. I can see average statistics, but I can't see it based on a single viewer. And if you're not logged in to your YouTube account, then how do I even know that? You know, it's just too complicated. So what homework will be a lot of the times is going to be your participation. It's going to be your attendance. So again, something else I thought I had up here. Oh, there was the comment, the must enroll before Wednesday. Homework can and will count as attendance. So the classical attendance policy is that you have to make 85% of the course, which for us means you can't miss more than 4 days. But if you're doing the homework, that's your attendance. So if it's test 1 time and I see a student hasn't done a single homework, those are going to be absences. And if it's more than 5 days worth of homework's missed, then that's a withdrawal of a student. So make sure you are doing your homework. If I don't see your name in the live lecture and I don't see you doing any homework, that's when I'm going to withdraw students. But a student who is acing the homeworks, is doing well on the tests, if I don't see their name on the live lectures, I'm not going to worry about that. I'm just going to assume they're watching the YouTube stuff or they've got it on their own good enough. That's okay. So homework can and will count as attendance. That's my most of our teachers' loose policies now. Something else, don't ask for extra credit at the end of the semester, a day before or a day after the semester. The only extra credit you're getting from me are those 10 homework points, which I think is significant. That's an entire grade that I'm giving you. So I think that's significant bonus points, extra credit points, whatever. Occasionally, I might offer a bonus opportunity in a test, but it's not going to happen on every test, maybe only on 1 or 2. Maybe none, maybe 1, maybe 2. So how do the tests work? So if you go to quizzes and tests, all these skills checks, that's not for us. That's nothing I've made. You don't have to do them. If you really want, I can open them up. All the due dates that you can see are past due. The homeworks are just these. But when it comes test time, when you go to the quizzes and test tab at the top, you will see test 1, and then eventually test 2, and eventually test 3. So you'll go in them, you'll work on them. It's just like a homework assignment, except you'll have a 2-hour time limit. Again, that's a 2-hour time limit, and you won't get immediate feedback. So like in this homework, when it was telling me I was right or wrong, it's not going to do that for you. You're not going to have any of those helpful aids that help me solve this or view an example. You're just going to complete it, you'll hit the submit button, and then you'll get your grade. So when you want to take your test, make sure you have 2 solid hours or however much time you think you'll need to complete it. They'll be in the ballpark of 20, 25 questions generally, but I do reserve the right to make that few or more. If the questions are, if I have a lot of simple questions, I'll go more. If I have a lot of complicated questions, I'll go less, because I want to give you a test that's relative to that time amount. And when you finish your test, you'll get your grade. So let's say this said test 1, and then you'll have your grade over here. And maybe it says you got a 60, and you go in and look at what you did right and wrong. But when you take that test, you need to be showing your work. This is not the only part of your grade. You are required to submit your work, and you'll be doing your submissions in Canvas. So after you get your grade, let's say you got a 60, and then you'll go to Canvas. Nope, wrong one. And there'll be a location to submit it there. I'll show you in a minute where it would be. You must submit your work in Canvas. It's probably going to be 15 minutes, no later, 15 minutes after finishing the test. What is this for? It's to circumvent cheating opportunities so that you don't just finish your test and write a whole bunch of things afterwards. So if I see someone finish the Mymathlab test at 3 p.m. on Monday, and then I look in Canvas and I see they submitted their work at 5 p.m. on Tuesday, I might make their test grade a 0 because of that, or take a bunch of points or something like that. Now, I'm not having this submit button and all this stuff to take points from you. It's actually more to help you. It's to get you some partial credit. You must request partial credit test. It is a lot more difficult to have to go in and look at people's work electronically than it is on paper. So I'm not just going to do this by default, especially since with this online test that your grades tend to be just a little better, honestly. But anyway, so let's say you got that 60 and you look at your work and you go, well, man, question number 3, it looks like my work was excellent up to this point. So it was just this one error. Let me email Mr. Bechter and say, hey, in my work that you'll see in Canvas, I only had this one small error. Can I get some partial credit? And I'll go look at it and I'll go, oh, well, yeah, you did great on these 5, 6 steps. You just missed 1. So here's 4 of the 5 points back to you. But again, you'll have to make that request. I don't plan on doing that a ton. There are not going to be a lot of partial credit opportunities with this course, unfortunately, but I will when I can. So just because you make a request doesn't mean that I will actually go through with it. When are we going to be tested? How do you get reviews? Yes, you get reviews. Yes, there it is. So don't miss tests. There's not going to be any makeup tests unless you have, like I said, excuses with documentation, that kind of thing. So tests will have appropriate reviews given at least 1 class in advance. Tests will always be announced at least 1 week in advance, and tests are generally going to be 1 week after finishing the material. So our first test is going to cover Chapter 5. So let's say on September 19th we finish Chapter 5. Most likely 7 days later on September 26th, that would be when our test starts. Now, given this format, I don't want to just give you 1 day to take the test. And I've heard some teachers are actually just doing the test during class time, which doesn't seem fair for all the reasons I've discussed. So you get 2 full 24-hour periods to take your tests. So if I say your test starts on the 26th, it will be available at 12:01 a.m. on the 26th. And then you have to submit it by 11:59 p.m. on the 27th, and then have that Canvas material and your work submitted 15 minutes later at most. By the way, while I do recommend doing test work on pencil and paper, if you're more into modern stuff and want to work on a tablet, that's fine, as long as you have a way of taking pictures and sending them to me, or screen grabs and sending them to me. Make sure that the work is legible. If you send me pictures and it's zoomed out like this, and I can't zoom in and have it be clear, guess what? You're not getting partial credit for that. I can guarantee it. So you'll have 2 full days to take the test, and it is generally going to be a week after we finish material. The only exception might be the end of the semester. If we finish the material 2 days before the final, you'll have to take that next test 1 class before the final. I hope that doesn't happen, but if it does, we'll approach that situation when we get there. So the only exception to that 2-day rule is the final exam. I will only give you 1 day to take the final. That's just a blanket rule. You'll still have 24 hours. It'll be available 12:01 a.m. It's due 11:59 p.m. And again, make sure you're submitting your work in Canvas no later than 15 minutes after finishing the test. This is to alleviate plagiarism, cheating issues, whatever you want to call it. Which, by the way, I know some teachers are doing the whole, you've got to have your cell phone or webcam on you for the test. That complicates things because not all students have cell phones, not all students have webcams, not all students have access to this stuff. So I would rather not have to do that just for y'all's sake. But if I notice that my test work looks suspicious, I will go to that model. So I'm trying to avoid it, but if I feel the need to go to that model, I will. The final exam, I may be forced into doing that. So just be prepared, and I'll let you know in advance if you have to. That way you can figure out a way to get access to that technology that day. The must enroll in Mymathlab, that was lower too. Before Wednesday's class should be deleted again. That is 100% fact. If I don't see your name in Mymathlab Wednesday at 12:25, the 2 seconds I have before our class starts, you'll be deleted and you won't be allowed back. So please make sure that you get in Mymathlab, the 6 of you that aren't in yet. Canvas. Sign back in. Canvas was running a little slow for me this morning. Let's see if it's still, let's leave student view. Can't access my material. Pre-calc 2. Yeah, still running a little slow, but it's day 1. Isn't this fun? And this is where if I was in class, I'd say, how's everyone's day? I might just have to lay out what it looks like. All right, so basically when you log in right now, you'll have a set of lecture videos, and right now, the first one is just the live, and it says the password. That live link will never change unless I switch to YouTube Live, in which case then I'll just change out the link, so that will always be there. And then below, it would be the 8:24 video. So that would just link you to YouTube after I upload it. Then after the date happens and I have the video, the 8:26 video would be up here. And I'll say it's on 5.1, and then the let's see, September 1st video, and it would be on 5.2 maybe. If it's on 2 sections, I'll label it. All these will be labeled really well. And it'll take you to YouTube, and in YouTube, if you actually go to my account, I have playlists that everything's under as well. that are done by semester. Yeah, because this isn't loading. So this is, I think, what we have at the top right now. Then you might have another section that's got like all the TCC fall 2020. It's like 8 or 9 different things. One of them's the Corona stuff. There's a tab that doesn't exist yet, so I'm going to do red for doesn't exist yet. But as it becomes time, you'll get a new one that says submit test 1 work here. So that's where you would submit your picture file, your PDF file, whatever it might be. And I'll take any file that works as long as it uploads properly. Every now and then there's a conversion issue, and I might have to email you and ask you to submit again. And if you do email me your work, if that happens, I will still ask you to submit it to Canvas just so that everyone is on the same location. I don't want to have to dig up files later, and I'm not saving every single one of these since I don't need to. All right, so that's what your Canvas will look like when it actually functions. I love technology. I miss the days, I didn't like blackboards, I don't like chalk, but I miss the days of chalk and a blackboard because we didn't have these issues. But we also didn't have COVID-19, so weird world. Okay, I think that's good for the online stuff. Let's go back to the syllabus and see what else we need to talk about. Topics, like we said, a whole lot of trig, basics of trig, all the trig that you have to remember this semester, and then we'll keep building and building and building. Eventually we get outside of trigonometry, which is conic sections, sequences and series, all this stuff that's optional. I can pretty much guarantee we won't get to, but they are fascinating topics. The nice thing is when those topics become relevant in Calc 2 and or Calc 3, teachers always go over them. So, I mean, I didn't learn polar coordinates until I was in Calc 2. I didn't learn that in my trigonometry advanced algebra equivalent class in high school. I learned matrices at some point in an earlier algebra class, but when I learned it in Calc 3, the teacher also went over it. Learning outcomes, you can flip through this stuff on your own as you like. Description of assessments, just the Mymathlab stuff. That's funny that it says WebAssign here and Mymathlab here. I'm going to blame the syllabus builder on that, and there's going to be a couple other issues that you'll see. Like this, the syllabus builder hates tables. I can never get these tables to generate correctly with it, but that's okay because honestly, these schedules are never that accurate anyways. So this really, don't trust the weeks of this, just trust that, hey, and also these sections, wow, they really need to fix this. These sections are the old textbook that we had a year ago. So our new textbook, everything that says chapter 7 is actually chapter 5, but the topics are still accurate. So this is the one good thing from the outline. I'm sorry about that. We need to get that fixed as a group. But unfortunately I can't change it because it's in the builder. So again, all the topics that you would have seen, you see that there'll be 3 tests and a final. Final is going to be cumulative. It will cover everything. If you see Math 164 anywhere, that's supposed to say 162. Again, that's just something that needs to be edited in the ultimate document. Grades, how's your grade calculated? I wish the spacing was a little better, but tests. So again, 3 or 4 tests, I anticipate it's going to be 3, 60%, which would make them 20% each. Homework in Mymathlab, which you'll have your, up to a 10-point boost in there for each assignment that you complete, is also 20% of your grade. This is an amazing opportunity. Someone who makes, say, 78s and 77s on all the tests, if they're rocking the homework, if they're getting 95s and 100s on the homeworks, that's going to bring their C test average up to a B average overall. That is an excellent opportunity. You cannot discount the homework. Don't skip it. Even if you know this stuff very well. I get students, they go, I know all this material. I've done it in high school. I don't need to do the homework. I'm not wasting my time. And they get 98s and 95s on the tests. And then I go in my math lab and I see they haven't done any homework. And guess what? My policy is my policy. I have to stick to it. So this student who was an A student, because they didn't do the homework, now gets a C. That sucks. I would rather see the high C student turn into a B student, or the high D student turn into a C student because they put in the effort outside of class. Course communication, email me. I always get back within 1 business day. I can't promise this over the weekends. I think I may have said, or I may not have. Everything's starting to go together between my first class and this one, and what I have said and have not said. But you have my email from earlier, rbeckner@tcc.edu. I will get back to you within 1 business day. If I email you, I would like you to get back to me within 1 business day as well, just so that everything's on the same playing field. We've talked about attendance already. Here's the homework stuff about that. And it's really weird that the syllabus builder has 2 attendance sections now. I don't know why it did that, but I noticed it. I keep saying syllabus builder. If you just want to know, all I see is basically this, and then it doesn't populate most of the other stuff for some sections. So like this, I didn't see, but I knew there was going to be a second attendance policy thing in here. And I think that's because of the COVID-19 stuff. But like I said, if I deem that you've missed up to 4 days or more than 4 days based on, I don't remember seeing that person's name in the attendance log, which I can pull up later live, and I'm not seeing them do any homeworks, then we can drop you, delete you, withdraw you, whatever. Late work, makeup work, there are no extensions on homework unless you have documentation necessitating it. I think that would be the proper phrasing of that word. The same with tests. If you know you've got something going on, those 2 test dates, you need to let me ahead of time, let me know, and we can arrange for you to take it a day in advance, but I'm not gonna let you take it a day late or a couple days later or a week late, again, unless you have a crazy circumstance going on, which if you do, you do. Classroom behavior, so just make sure that your mics are on mute unless you have a question. You are more than welcome to take your mic off of mute and ask a question out loud if you want to. I find that most students are more comfortable just typing them in chat. But again, if you want to speak up, you're more than welcome to. I have no problem with that. But just make sure you mute your mic afterwards, because a lot of us are at home and have kids we're babysitting, or people are working in the house or something like that. I'm getting ready to have my gutters replaced, so I definitely can't be working at home when that's going on. My dogs are a constant nuisance for various reasons, some a little more serious than others. So I feel for you, and I'm sorry that I can't necessarily mute you when stuff happens here, but I try to. Don't use your cell phone as a calculator, because you should be using your TI-83s when it's necessary. If you haven't signed up for Tcc Alerts, please do so. There's a link to that in the syllabus. You can also just go through the TCC website and find it that way as well. My favorite fun story is I was teaching about a decade ago at a different campus, and I live in Portsmouth, teach in Portsmouth because they're close, but I was teaching at Chesapeake at the time, living in Portsmouth, and it was a 30-minute drive when traffic was good. It was an hour drive when traffic was awful, 45 minutes when it was just okay. Well, one day we get a really good snowstorm overnight, and I wake up and I have an 8 a.m. class, and at 6 a.m. there's no announcement on the news that TCC is closed, even though there's like 2 inches of snow on the ground. That's weird. I get my shower, I get ready for the day, check one last time for my 8 a.m. class, and I leave it. I left it like, I don't know, 6:45, something like that. Took me over an hour to get to class. I want to say it took me an hour and 15 minutes to get to work, maybe an hour and 20. And when I arrived at work, it's a ghost town. 1 car in the parking lot, and that's because after I hit the road, TCC had sent out the alert that classes were canceled. Thankfully, 10 years later, they don't really play it that close to the chest anymore. But at the time, you can imagine several words came out of my mouth that I will not repeat on a recorded video. Use your own imagination. I drove home. The drive home was equally as terrible. And the first thing I did when I got home was I signed up for Tcc Alerts, because they'll send you emails and text messages. And I could have heard my phone buzz. I could have pulled over, looked and saw that, hey, classes are canceled. Driven back home only maybe, I think it was like 20 minutes into the drive, so it wouldn't have been nearly as frustrating. And it would have been well. I would have been well. So sign up for TCC Alerts because, I mean, it's 2020, right? You've seen the memes. You're living it. We got 2 hurricanes coming up the coast at the same time. When does that happen? I can't even think of any time that has happened in my life where they were approaching the same region at the same time with almost the same pace. I mean, we've had I'm not even going to list all the different things we've had, but we're probably going to have a snowstorm next week. Who knows? I'm expecting the worst and the weirdest, and hopefully those things don't happen. Emergency shutdown, normal stuff, read it. We don't really have to worry about drills on campus or anything like that. The campuses are open. You can go in for library services. I believe the tutoring center is open for in-person as well. I'm going to get you a Zoom link for online tutoring when I have that. I have not been sent the link yet, but once I have it, I will send that to you. Withdrawal policy. Why is this so small in font? The W date is October 29th, so if you withdraw after that, it's an automatic F, unless you have documentation saying you moved to Canada or you gave birth, something extenuating, or maybe worse things, like you've been detained. I don't know. Hopefully none of that's going on. And in those situations, maybe we can get you your W. We can probably get you your W, but it's a lot of paperwork and a lot of time. But if you need to withdraw from this course because you're not doing well, or something's about to happen in your life, do it before then to make this as simple as possible for you. It's a lot easier to explain a W on a transcript instead of an F, unless you're dealing with the VA. I know they think about things differently, so you might have a more unique situation. Deadline for tuition refund is September 9th. You can see that on the screen. While I can withdraw students for the lack of participation, as previously discussed, if you're not watching the lectures, if you're not doing the homework, just withdraw yourself. It's a lot easier on everyone by withdrawing yourself, because sometimes paperwork gets missed, and then all of a sudden you got an F at the end of the semester and you got paperwork to deal with. Sometimes things get misfiled, and I'm not saying these happen a lot, but it's just easier instead of causing your professor to have to turn it in, and then that has to go to their department, and then through enrollment. It's a longer chain effect of things, and it's more wiggle room for mistakes to happen. So withdraw yourself if you know you're done with this course. And you can always email me and say, Mr. Beckner, I've been having a hard time. I made an F on the first test. The second one's coming up. The withdrawal date's coming up. I'm starting to get the basics of things, but I don't know if I can reasonably pick myself up yet. What do you think? And I'll give an opinion. I may not tell you what to do, but I'll at least lay out the different results that could happen from it. Because I don't like telling people what to do with their lives. I like to say, hey, if you do this, this could be an outcome, or if you do that, that could be an outcome. Some people in my life really appreciate that. Some people would just want me to tell them what to do, and unfortunately, it's not my style. Academic integrity, make sure that your homework is your own, make sure your test work is your own. Again, I do reserve the right to make testing much more of a hassle for everybody should I feel the need. So to me, I mean, the ultimate takeaway from this is, if you're in this course, I'm assuming you're going to calculus after this. There are not many programs that stop at a course with pre in the name and then don't do the thing without pre. Why are you learning pre-calculus if you're not going on to calculus? I think just think about the wording. It makes sense, right? So, let's say a student might find a little wiggle room somewhere and they're making A's on the test, but they don't actually learn the material. What good does that do you? Because when you get to calculus, now you don't know the trigonometry that you need in calculus, and it's going to be a lot harder to fudge the next class and the next class and the next class. It's pretty hard to fudge this class already. So think about yourself. Do this for yourself. Learn this material for yourself. Because again, if you're going on to calculus, I would say 50% of the material you learn in this course will be used in that. And if you're going to go on to engineering or sciences, you'll use even more of this course in later calculus courses and in later math classes. And in engineering, trigonometry is everywhere. It is everywhere. You listen to music? Trigonometry. You see the light outside? You see all the things you see? Trigonometry. You see the waves in the ocean? Trigonometry. You got a car with an engine, the way the pistons move to make your car move ultimately? Guess what? Trigonometry. And I could go all day on this, but you get the idea. Educational accessibility, aka disability services. If you have a form from TCC for me to sign, you can email it to me, and then I'll have it on record, and I will accommodate you in every single way it says. I know some teachers at other schools aren't always accommodating of this, and I don't really understand how that flies. I can name a couple situations, which I will not actually name any places or people, but I've just heard of this one school that's got several teachers that get the disability forms, and they're like, nah, dog, you don't get double test time, or I'm not going to allow you to record my lecture. And I don't understand either of those aspects. First of all, what's the harm in recording a lecture? Also, you're already getting a recorded lecture from me with this, so that's a non-issue. But the other things like double test time or a specific seat in the classroom, like why would you want to deny that? I don't get it. So I will absolutely accommodate you as long as you have the TCC form. If you feel you need accommodations, maybe you've got private documentation somewhere else. Unfortunately, legally, I can't use that. You have to take that to TCC, then get their paperwork to me. And that's when I can accommodate you. If you do have an accommodation that has something in regards to testing, please remind me when it comes to test time, because we've got 10 million things going on, and it could just slip through the cracks. And again, I want to make sure that you get your accommodations. Emergency procedures, like I said, not really going to have a lot of issues with that on campus unless you're going to the library or on campus tutoring if that's available. But bomb threats and tornado threats and fire threats and hurricane threats and all that stuff, still normal procedures there. Check out the hyperlink. Title IX is there. Read it. We're not going to discriminate in any way, shape, or form. We love you all. Read your student handbook. If you hadn't, you wouldn't believe what you can find in that thing that you might not know about. Library hours, I believe, are posted online. Should check that out. If you are going on campus for anything, please note that there is only one entrance and exit for each building, and I believe it's all the ones that are on the quad for the Portsmouth campus, the big grassy area. They will ask you if you've had any symptoms. Please don't go to campus if you have had symptoms. Wear a mask. I believe they're making everyone wear a mask. If you have documentation that says you don't have to, I would probably bring that just in case. Sorry, I had to have a sip of water. Refreshing. Learning Resource Center, that's the tutoring. Again, when I have that hyperlink, I'll get it to you. Important websites, pretty normal. In addition, I mentioned Purple Math and Khan Academy. That's KHAN. You just Google. Those are going to be great for if you're weak in any old stuff. And Khan Academy's got some okay trigonometry stuff as well. But I think that my materials are a little more well-rounded overall. We've already talked about classroom behavior, and that's it for the syllabus. Any questions on the syllabus? I know that's a lot to throw at you all at once. Okay. So again, you should have that electronically. I'll put that in Mymathlab and in Canvas sooner than later, by the end of this week, absolutely, probably by Wednesday, but I've got to work on my Tuesday, Thursday courses next. Your textbook is right here, eText. Fingers crossed that it loads. Hilarious. I'm wondering if maybe it's just signed me out of Mymathlab. I called that though, didn't I? I mean, when you're used to something failing, You assume the next thing is going to fail, right? Crossing my fingers here. I think it's going to work this time. Maybe not. Nope. Nope. All right, so there's our e-text. Kind of a pain to have to just go flipping through left and right, but when you're in this area, you can see what page. Oh, okay, well, I know Mr. Beckner said the first thing we're doing is 5.1, so that's on page 542, so I can go up to here and type page 542, enter, and there we are. This will be the first bit of information we'll be looking at. I might occasionally pull up the textbook during lecture, but most of the time I use my own notes. I'll have some stuff prepared ahead of time in Word. I'll be writing and typing some stuff in Word most of the time. And again, I will pull from the textbook as I find it necessary. You can just flip through the pages. If you don't think that the Mymathlab homework is enough, if you feel like you need more practice, you can go to the textbooks exercises, and then you can flip to the back pages with the answers. So maybe you want to write some page numbers down as you're doing this, but don't ask me what page something's on. I'm generally not going to have that information just at my fingertips. So here we go. We can flip to the homework pages starting on page 556. And you can do extra homeworks. They have a lot more examples of the same type of problem. It is my opinion that you should be doing more than 15 to 20 homework problems per section. I don't feel that that is enough to truly master something. So my first suggestion is do each problem twice. My second suggestion is go to the exercise list in the textbook, and then again, you can use the answer key in the back as a reference to check your answers. But it's not going to give you all the work and tell you whether you're right or wrong and all that stuff. So that's why I say go to this last. But it is an additional excellent resource. All right. Your grade book, obviously that's where your grades would be. I'm doing pretty bad right now with my grades. I've got like a 9.5 on one section. But you see it says I've got a 9.5. If I let this go past due and let the next 3 sections go past due, it's not going to calculate those other zeros, as I said. Don't trust this grade. Don't trust it. Don't trust that grade. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I need from Mymathlab. We tried to show you Canvas, and I gave you a good picture idea of what it should look like. We've seen our calculator, the digital version. We talked about the homework. Any questions on homework, grading, issues like that, due dates? Remember, you have to enroll before Wednesday. Just do it today. Just get it done today. There's no reason not to enroll today. You know you're going to get a small buffer. Don't just aim for 90s on the homework. Still aim for a 100. Because maybe those 1 or 2 questions that take you from 90 to 100, maybe they're more similar to what's going to be on a test. You never know. Don't trust your Mymathlab grade. If you already purchased a kit for 161, you should be good. You shouldn't have to buy it again. If you bought this several years ago, we're on a new edition, and you will have to purchase it. So it's only if you purchase this in the last year, I believe, that it's still good, because I believe fall of 2019 is when we changed editions. Make sure you understand how much effort you're supposed to be putting into this course. Now, if you're great at math, maybe you're only doing 2 or 3 hours. If you're not great at math, maybe you're doing 9 hours. If you're okay at math, maybe you're at 6. But if you're doing 30 minutes of homework a week and you're earning D's on the test, that's on you, because you're not putting in the effort. Again, this is like flipping a high school scenario. High school, it's 2 hours in, 1 hour at home. And here it's 1 hour in, 2 hours at home. And that's because we're supposed to be more individual in our learning, if you will. Take your notes. unless you're making A's without taking notes in all aspects. You know, if you just need to listen, that's fine. I don't know too many people that can just listen and read math and learn it that way, though. Most people have to write it. Most people have to take notes. Again, you'll have access to these lectures to be able to rewatch them. They'll go up within a couple of hours after being posted. If there's ever a situation where Zoom is down, so I can't host the class live, then I'll just record it at some point and post it, unless I don't have time, and in which case we lose the class. If I'm sick and I have to miss live class, if I have the opportunity before the next class, I will try and go ahead and record something so that we don't fall behind, because I really don't want us to fall behind in here. But if I'm sick and I'm still sick the next day, then it's a scenario where we've missed a class. But I really don't want to have to miss any classes if I don't have to. Homework can and will count as attendance. Don't miss your tests, take them. You'll have 2 days. I had a situation recently where I had said the final exam date for 3 weeks in a row in my lectures. 3 weeks in recorded lectures. And a student later came to me after having missed the final exam date and said, you know, hey, I thought the exam was another day. Can you give me an exception? And no, I can't. It was very obvious when the final exam date was. You basically just told me you haven't been watching the lectures. That's not a good sign. And again, if I feel it necessary, I can make quizzes that will be based on something I said in a lecture. And I won't even tell you when it was in the lecture if I don't feel the need to. So there might just be a random blip where I say the word lettuce in an hour and 15-minute test. And I might say, hey, in the 30-minute ballpark, 30 to 45-minute ballpark, what's the weird word I say? And it would, completely out of context. Or maybe I ask you the answer to a problem. It doesn't have to be math related. It could be just something weird to make sure that, hey, they definitely watched the video. Okay. All right. I think that's all I want to say for now. I'm going to blank out the screen for just a second. You should still be able to hear me, but I want to find a document. I forgot to pull it up before class. Is it this one? Yes. Oh, wow, that looks... Why did it open in a notepad? That's weird. Yeah, that shouldn't have opened in a WordPad, and or a notepad, and that's probably because Word needs to be updated like it was saying over there, but I was afraid to update right before class started because I didn't know if the update was going to take 2 minutes or 2 hours. So there's a couple of things missing in here, but this is basically what we're going to go over next class. We'll talk about it, we'll show some examples, and we'll get past it as well. I can't imagine needing more than an hour for this. So at the top of next class, you'll see this. Hopefully it'll look a little better. Hopefully it'll have the right setup and everything. It should be in a Word file. I'll get that fixed between now and then. But this is just going to be a lot of basic definitions, giving examples of, hey, what does an obtuse angle look like? What does a straight angle look like? How do we actually, what does the math look like between this conversion process that you don't even see what to multiply by because of file issues? And if for some reason I can't get this file converted back, I'll just make it up again. It's not that long, not an issue. So like I said, you'll see I have some stuff pre-made and then some stuff I don't. And if I don't have it pre-made, we do it on the fly, just like in regular class when we're writing on the whiteboard. And again, that's more of how I do things often in here. A lot of the times at the beginning of class, I might show a screen with just some of the relevant formulas and information that we'll use for the day, like SOHCAHTOA Some of you may have heard the phrase SOHCAHTOA before, or ASTC, a smart trig class. SOHCAHTOA, some old horse caught another horse taking oats away. It's a mnemonic device to remember sine is opposite over adjacent, cosine is adjacent. I said that incorrectly. I was going too fast in my head. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. That's SO, S-O-H. Ca, C-A-H. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. TOA is T-O-A. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. It's an amazing mnemonic device to help you remember the first three trig functions. And then you've got all sorts of other mnemonic devices and formulas and things that we use constantly, like the Pythagorean identities, the trig functions of quadrantal angles. What is a quadrantal angle? We'll get into all that stuff. So I like to have kind of a reference page at the top of each class, and I can just flip back and forth to it as long as Word is operating appropriately. So if it's on one of those things, it's something that you need to know inside and out. It will definitely be tested on, using it all semester potentially, all sorts of cool things. So there's only about 15 minutes of class left at this point. I don't feel like that's enough time to really dive into any material. I think we've said enough. So last opportunity, last 60 seconds. If you have any questions, please ask, either text or voice. Besides that, I hope this has been informative. I hope I've laid out how this course is going to operate in a clear manner. If you have any questions after this, you are more than welcome to email me. Occasionally, I might upload documents to Canvas, and I'll let you know when they've been uploaded if I do upload them. Yeah, besides that, it was a pleasure talking to y'all, talking to my blank screen in front of me. I do miss the days of being in a regular classroom. I would much prefer there, but I also appreciate the level of safety that we're taking for this. So I completely understand it, and we will be strong and get through this together, and we'll learn as much as we possibly can so that we can take that next step into calculus. Besides that, have an excellent day, be excellent to each other, and we will see you Wednesday at 12:30. Again, make sure you enroll in Mymathlab before then. All right, take care everyone, have a good day.